I never thought the day would come when my own daughter would stand in the middle of my garden, the very place where she took her first steps, and laugh at me. This old place, it's useless, she said, kicking the soil as if it meant nothing. Then she added the words that shattered my heart. Dad, just sign the papers. We already decided to sell it. Her husband stood behind her, nodding, tapping his expensive shoes on the ground like he owned the place. My son stood beside them, silent, avoiding my eyes, and me. I stood frozen, holding the same rusty watering can I've used for years, wondering when my own children stopped seeing value in the things that built their childhood. They came with documents already printed, already stamped as if my signature was just a small formality. As if my memories, my sweat, my late wife's favorite rose bushes were nothing. Just sign it, Dad. My daughter repeated. You're old. What do you even need land for? That line cut deeper than anything, because that land wasn't just soil. It was a promise. It was a legacy. And it held a secret none of them knew, a secret worth $5 million. I didn't sign that day. Instead, I walked back into my house quietly, like a defeated old man. But inside my chest, something was waking up, something fierce, something protective. Because if they wanted to cheat me, if they wanted to humiliate me, if they thought I was weak, then they were about to learn a lesson they would never forget. A week later, when my lawyer placed a sealed envelope in my hands, everything changed. The letter revealed the truth that would turn my greedy children against each other and shake every corner of my family. I looked out the window at my daughter, laughing with her husband, confident she controlled everything. She had no idea what was coming next. When my children were young, this garden used to be the heart of our home. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't big, and it certainly didn't look like the manicured lawns people post on social media today. But to my son and daughter, it was a kingdom. I still remember how my daughter, Aisha, used to run barefoot across the grass, chasing butterflies with her little pink net. My son, Hamza, built tiny mud forts near the mango tree, proudly showing them to anyone who visited. My late wife, Sarah, used to sit on the old wooden bench, humming softly while she trimmed the roses. Those were simpler times when we ate together, laughed together, loved each other without condition. But life has a strange way of changing people. After Sarah passed away, things started shifting. I did my best to keep the family together. I cooked, I cleaned, I tried to be both mother and father. But grief does different things to different hearts. When Aisha got married, she changed the most. Her in-laws, wealthy, polished, always looking down on old-fashioned lifestyles, treated my home like it was beneath them. Her husband, Saad, especially had a way of staring at my garden as if he was calculating how much it could be sold for. Hamza tried to stay neutral, but I could tell he was torn between loyalty to me and pressure from his sister. Still, I tried not to think about it. I told myself they just needed time to settle into their adult lives. But the truth was harder to accept. They weren't settling. They were drifting away, and fast. The garden that once held their happiest memories became old, messy, a waste of space. They stopped coming on weekends. They stopped helping with anything. Visits were no longer about spending time with me, they were about what they could take. I didn't see it clearly back then, but the signs were there. One day, while I was sorting old papers, I found a dusty folder tucked behind an unused shelf. Inside were the original land documents, older than me, older than even my father, handwritten and sealed. Something about them felt off, strange, important. Before I could examine them properly, I heard Aisha and Saad arrive in the driveway. Loud voices, expensive perfume, impatience in every step. I tucked the documents away, planning to look at them later. I didn't know it then, but those papers were about to change everything. Aisha's voice echoed through the hallway, sharp and cold. I knew from the moment they stepped inside that this visit wouldn't be a simple hello. Dad, she started without any warmth, we need to talk about the garden. Saad stood beside her, arms crossed, smirking like he owned every inch of this place. I wanted to remind them this was my home, the only one I had left after Sarah died, but something in Aisha's eyes stopped me. You don't understand, she said, as if I were a child. This land is a burden. It's not worth holding on to. We've talked to the lawyers. They said we should sell it now. Sell it? My voice caught in my throat. Why, this garden was your mother's favorite place. She's gone, Dad. The land doesn't mean anything to us, Saad added, stepping forward. I looked at my daughter, the little girl, who once begged me to plant tulips and daisies, and barely recognized her. The warmth was gone. The respect was gone. Weeks passed, and with every call and visit, the pressure grew. Aisha no longer bothered to hide her disdain. You don't need to worry about the money. We'll take care of everything, she said, handing me a stack of papers. Just sign here. But I wasn't the only one noticing the change. My neighbors, friends from the old days, started asking questions when they heard the news. Is it true your daughter wants to sell the family land? One asked, shaking his head. She doesn't understand what it means to lose your roots. It stung, but I couldn't blame them. Even I was beginning to wonder how it came to this, how my own children could look at their inheritance as nothing more than a quick paycheck. Saad's family didn't help. They whispered behind my back, calling the place a relic, a waste of good investment. Their influence on Aisha grew stronger, pushing her further away from me and the memories we shared. One evening, I overheard a conversation between Saad and one of his relatives. That property's prime, he said. If we sell it now, we'll get a fortune. Dad doesn't know the full value, and we're keeping it that way. That's when it hit me this wasn't just about the garden. It was about money, power, control, but they didn't know I was watching, and I wasn't going to let them take what was rightfully mine or what belonged to Sarah's memory. Next time Aisha came over, she brought the paperwork again. This time, I was ready to fight. The day Aisha brought those papers over for the third time, something inside me snapped. I sat her down in the living room, the same room where Sarah used to knit blankets for the grandchildren. My hand trembled as I held the documents, the signatures and legal jargon staring back at me. Aisha, I said slowly, why do you want to sell the garden so badly? She rolled her eyes. Dad, you don't understand. It's just land. We could use that money for better things, houses, cars, investments. You're holding on to something that's holding you back. Her husband, Saad, leaned against the doorway, arms folded, looking like a judge passing sentence. I swallowed the lump in my throat and tried to keep calm. But this land isn't just soil and grass. It's where your mother dreamed of planting a family orchard. It's where you learned to ride your bike. It's part of our story. Aisha scoffed. Stories don't pay bills, Dad. And if you won't sign, we might have to find other ways. Those words felt like a slap. What do you mean by other ways? I asked, wary now. Saad smiled thinly, stepping closer. Look, we're just trying to do what's best for the family. You're getting old. Let us handle it. The room felt cold. My own daughter urging me to give up my home, my memories, as if I were an obstacle. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the old documents I'd found weeks ago, tucked safely in my drawer. Something about them didn't sit right. Why would Aisha and Saad be so desperate to sell? What were they hiding? The next morning, I decided to call the lawyer who handled Sarah's will. I needed answers. When the lawyer answered, his tone was serious. Mr. Khan, I've been meaning to call you. There's something you need to know about the property. It's more valuable than anyone realizes. My heart pounded. What do you mean? He hesitated. There's a secret clause in the will and an updated deed. I think it's time we review them together. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as I thought. The days that followed felt like living in a nightmare. Aisha and Saad didn't slow down. If anything, their visits became more frequent, their voices louder, their demands more aggressive. Every time I saw them, I felt like I was shrinking, like the old man who once nurtured a garden was now just a tired obstacle to be removed. Dad, you've had time to think. Aisha said one afternoon, her tone sharp like a knife. The papers are ready. We just need your signature. Saad was right beside her, watching my reaction like a hawk. It's for the best. You don't want to be stuck with a useless property, do you? I looked at them, my heart heavy with betrayal. This is my home. Your mother's home. You're holding us back, Aisha said flatly. You're stopping us from moving forward. Hamza, my son, was there too. For the first time, I noticed his silence wasn't support. It was guilt. I could see the conflict in his eyes. One evening, after another exhausting confrontation, Hamza stayed behind. Dad, he said quietly, Aisha and Saad are right. We could use the money. Maybe it's time. His words broke something inside me, not because they were wrong, but because my own son was turning away. But deep down, I still clung to hope. I wasn't ready to give up, not without knowing the full truth. I reached for the dusty folder of land documents again. The handwriting on the deed, the seals, the faded signatures, they meant something more than I had realized. I called the lawyer back. Mr. Khan, I said, please, help me understand what's really going on. The lawyer's voice was steady but urgent. There's a reason your family is pushing you to sign quickly. The property's value is hidden from them, but it's real, and it's massive. He explained that without the secret clause and updated deed being reviewed carefully, they risk losing everything. I felt a surge of determination. If they wanted to play dirty, so would I. But first, I had to keep them from seeing the truth too soon. Aisha and Saad's true colors started showing more clearly after that call to the lawyer. They knew I was asking questions, digging deeper, and they didn't like it one bit. One afternoon, Saad cornered me in the kitchen when Aisha was out. His smile was sharp, but his eyes were cold. Listen, old man, he said, voice low but threatening, you're making things difficult for everyone. We just want what's fair. I met his gaze steadily. Fair? What's fair about pushing your own father to sell his home without knowing the full truth? He scoffed. Don't play the victim. This isn't about you. It's about moving forward. You think you can hold us hostage with old papers and secrets. I clenched my fists. I'm not going anywhere. Not until I understand everything. That day, Saad's mask slipped, and I saw the greed underneath. He wasn't interested in family or memories, only money. Word spread quickly. Our neighbors began whispering about the drama unfolding behind closed doors. At the weekly community meeting, someone asked about the garden sale. Aisha, ever proud, flaunted her vision of progress and modern investments, while Saad nodded, smirking. But the old friends who had known our family for decades weren't convinced. That land means more than money. One elderly neighbor said quietly, it's history. Don't let greed blind you. Back at home, Aisha's calls became harsher. Dad, sign the papers or we take legal steps, she warned. I wasn't surprised when she mentioned the courts. They wanted to pressure me, intimidate me, but they underestimated one thing, my determination. Late at night, the house was quiet. I pulled out the documents again. I read every word carefully, feeling the weight of my wife's last wishes in each line. Then I called the lawyer back. We need to act. I'm not letting them take this from me. The lawyer agreed, promising to prepare the next steps. I knew the battle was far from over. The day it all spilled into the open felt like a storm breaking over the calmest part of my life. I was tending to the garden, trimming the roses Sarah loved so much when I heard voices raised on the front lawn. I looked up to see Aisha, Saad, and Hamza standing there, arguing loudly with a group of neighbors. You don't belong here. Aisha yelled, pointing at me as if I were a stranger trespassing on their property. Her voice was sharp, cruel, nothing like the daughter I once knew. Saad nodded aggressively, adding, this land is for the new generation. It's time the old guard steps aside. My heart pounded as whispers and stares gathered around us. Some neighbors looked shocked, others hesitant, but everyone heard the betrayal in their words. Hamza looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I realized he was torn caught between loyalty and pressure to side with his wife and sister. Someone from the crowd stepped forward, an older man who had known our family for decades. This is not how we treat our elders, he said firmly. This garden is a part of your family's history. But Aisha waved him off. History doesn't pay the bills. She snapped. The confrontation felt like a public shaming. I stood there, silent but burning inside, as the people I trusted witnessed my children's disrespect. That night, alone in the house, I replayed the moment over and over. How could they be so cold, so greedy, yet, despite everything, a spark of hope remained. The next day, my lawyer called with news that changed the entire game. There's a secret clause in your late wife's will, he said. It's been overlooked, but it gives you full control over the property and it could stop your family's plans cold. For the first time in weeks, I felt like the tide was turning. They thought they had me cornered, but I was just getting started. The call from my lawyer came early in the morning, breaking the silence like a sudden storm. Mr. Khan, he said carefully, I've gone through the documents again, and there's something you need to know. Your late wife's will contains a secret clause that was never made public. I leaned forward, heart pounding. A secret clause. Yes, It states that the property cannot be sold without your express consent. More importantly, it gives you full control over the land, regardless of what any papers your children may have signed say. I felt a mix of relief and anger. Relief because I wasn't powerless, anger because my children and their in-laws had been trying to push me out without telling me the full story. The clause was included to protect the land. The lawyer continued. Sarah wanted to make sure it stayed in the family. That's why the land was never officially listed at market value, to avoid temptation. I closed my eyes and thought of Sarah, her gentle hands planting seeds, her laughter in the sunshine. She had fought to protect this legacy, even when she was too weak to speak. The lawyer also sent me a copy of the updated deed, signed, notarized, and sealed, proving my exclusive rights. It was like holding a key that unlocked years of confusion. But there was one more thing. Mr. Khan, the lawyer said, your children don't know about this. If they find out, it could change everything. I nodded slowly. This was my chance to reclaim what was rightfully mine. But I had to be careful. If I revealed the truth too soon, they might try to destroy the evidence or cause more harm. So I decided to keep it close for now, to watch and plan my next move. After that call, I arranged to meet with a local real estate expert, someone my lawyer trusted. I wanted to know the real value of the land, the one my family was desperate to hide from me. The expert arrived one afternoon, clipboard in hand, and walked around the garden, inspecting every inch. You're sitting on a gold mine, he said with a smile I didn't expect. How much? I asked, barely daring to hope. He looked me straight in the eyes. At least $5 million. Maybe more. 5 million. The number echoed in my mind, louder than any argument I'd had with my children. 5 million was more than just money. It was proof that they had lied to me, hidden the truth to get their way. I thought back to Saad's cold smile, Aisha's impatient demands, and Hamza's silence. They all had a plan, and I had been blinded by their words. But now I held the facts. This wasn't just about the garden being old or useless. It was about greed, pure and simple. That night, I stared out at the garden in the moonlight, feeling a fierce protectiveness rising in my chest. No one would take this from me. Not my daughter, not her husband, not even my own son. I reached out to my lawyer again. Prepare the papers, I'm ready to fight. He agreed, but warned me to tread carefully. Once you start this battle, things will get messy. Your family won't go down without a fight. I nodded, knowing he was right. This was war, but I had one advantage: the truth. I decided to confront my children, but I wasn't ready to do it blindly. Instead, I set a plan in motion, one that would reveal their true intentions without me having to say much. First, I invited Aisha, Saad, and Hamza over under the pretense of discussing the garden sale one last time. As they arrived, confident and smug, I calmly laid out copies of the secret clause in Sarah's will, the updated deed, and the real market value report. Their faces went from surprise to panic in seconds. Aisha's eyes narrowed. Where did you get this? Doesn't matter. I replied. What matters is that I control the land, not you. Saad stepped forward, trying to grab the papers. You're wasting time. These are old documents. We have the signatures. I shook my head. You lied to me. You hid the true value. You pressured me to sign away my home, and now you think you can bully me into giving it up? Hamza looked ashamed, finally speaking up. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't want this to go this far. But Aisha was furious. You don't understand. We thought you were weak. We thought you'd give up. That was your mistake, I said firmly. Word got out quickly. Friends, neighbors, even distant relatives heard about the confrontation. Suddenly, the family who had been so proud and secretive found themselves the subject of whispers and judgment. I could see the crack forming. The greed that once bound them together was now tearing them apart. For the first time in months, I felt the weight lifting. The battle wasn't over, but now they knew I wasn't someone to be taken lightly, and the garden, our garden, was safe for now. After exposing the truth, I knew the next step had to be legal and firm. With the lawyer's help, I began the process of officially reclaiming full ownership of the land. The papers were clear. The secret clause gave me the right to block any sale or transfer without my approval. I filed the necessary documents with the local registry and notified my children that any attempts to sell the property without my consent would be invalid. When the official notice arrived at the house, I saw the shock on Aisha's face. Her arrogance crumbled for the first time. "You can't do this," she shouted, pacing angrily in the living room. "Oh, but I just did," I said calmly. Saad's expression was a mix of disbelief and fury. Hamza, once so quiet, seemed lost, unsure of who to support. For days, the atmosphere was tense. Aisha tried every trick, calling, pleading, threatening, but I stood my ground. The lawyer made it clear. The law was on my side, and any breach would have serious consequences. In the neighborhood, whispers turned to gossip. Friends who once distanced themselves now came to offer support. And the garden, it became a symbol not just of land or money, but of standing up to betrayal. I walked the grounds often, remembering Sarah's dreams, my children's childhood laughter, and the promise I made to protect this legacy. This was my home, my fight, and I was ready to win. The morning after the official legal notice, chaos erupted at their house, or rather, in the front yard. Aisha's calm facade cracked completely. She screamed and yelled at Saad, blaming him for everything, though her anger was really aimed at me. "You ruined everything," she cried, pacing frantically. "How could you do this?" Saad tried to soothe her, but was visibly rattled himself. They both realized the stakes were much higher than they anticipated. Meanwhile, Hamza came to visit me quietly, avoiding any attention. His eyes were red, filled with regret. "Dad," he said softly, "I was wrong. I got caught up in their plans. I want to make things right." I didn't know whether to be angry or relieved, but I chose to listen. Over tea, he opened up about the pressure he'd felt, the fear of losing respect in his own family, and how Saad's influence had blinded him. "I want to be on your side now," he said. It was turning point, a crack in the wall they'd built around themselves. As days passed, the tension between Aisha and Saad grew worse. Their arguments were no longer private. Neighbors heard the shouting matches. Their plan to control the land was falling apart. I stood firm, knowing that with Hamza's support and the law on my side, I could rebuild what they tried to destroy. But the biggest test was still ahead when Aisha finally realized the true cost of her betrayal. Word of the family drama spread like wildfire through our neighborhood. Friends, relatives, and even casual acquaintances started taking sides, whispering about the greed and betrayal that had torn my family apart. I watched as Aisha's reputation crumbled. The proud woman who once dismissed the garden as worthless now found herself isolated. Her friends began avoiding her, uncomfortable with the harsh truth of her actions. Saad's influence dwindled too. Without Aisha's support, he became distant, frustrated, and angry. Hamza, by contrast, gained respect for standing with me, even though it wasn't an easy choice. Some neighbors approached me quietly, expressing sympathy and support, but the most painful moment came when Aisha broke down in front of me, not with anger, but with tears. She came to the garden one rainy afternoon, soaked and desperate. "I never wanted it to be like this," she whispered, voice shaking. "I thought we were doing what was best. But I was wrong." I looked at her, my daughter, the little girl who once loved this garden, and felt a flood of emotions. Hurt, disappointment, but also a deep, stubborn love. "I wish you'd understood that respect matters more than money," I said quietly. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. The family was fractured, but maybe, just maybe, there was a chance to rebuild. The storm had passed, but the wounds were still fresh. After Aisha's breakdown, the house felt quieter, more thoughtful. The anger softened, replaced by painful honesty. We began to talk, not about money or property, but about what really mattered. "I'm sorry, Dad," Aisha said one afternoon, eyes downcast. "I didn't realize how much this garden meant to you, to all of us." I reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "It's not just about the land. It's about respect, trust, and family." She nodded slowly, the first step toward healing. Hamza stood beside her, quietly promising to support me and rebuild what we had lost. The garden, once threatened, became a symbol of forgiveness and hope, a place where old wounds could start to heal. But I knew the journey wouldn't be easy. Betrayal leaves scars, and trust takes time. Still, I was ready to try. With the truth out and wounds beginning to heal, we started setting new boundaries, not just around the garden, but within our family. Aisha took steps to rebuild trust, helping me care for the plants Sarah loved, and even suggesting ideas to improve the garden. Hamza became more involved, visiting more often and supporting me in legal matters when needed. I also made it clear that respect would be the foundation of our family moving forward. Money could never replace that. Friends who had stood by me during the ordeal became like family. Their support reminded me that wealth means little without genuine connections. The garden bloomed again, reflecting the slow but steady growth in our hearts. It was a new beginning, one built on honesty, forgiveness, and love. Though the scars of betrayal remained, they no longer defined us. Instead, they taught us lessons we would carry forever. Looking back, I realize the hardest battles aren't about money or land, they're about respect and love. The garden wasn't just soil or plants. It was a living memory of my wife, our family, roots, and the life we built together. When Aisha mocked that garden, she didn't just insult dirt, she dismissed the legacy of a lifetime. But through the pain, I learned something important. Money can come and go. Wealth can vanish in a moment, but respect lasts forever. It binds families, it heals wounds, it builds bridges where there once were walls. I hope my story reminds you to cherish what truly matters. Hold your loved ones close, listen when they speak, and never let greed blind your heart, because in the end, respect matters more than money, and now they know it too.